What's going on, Guardians? It's Tizzle here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite new primary weapons in the game, and that is Collective Obligation. Now, I know I say new, and this gun is not new, it's over 2 years old, but we really haven't had a artifact that allows it to shine like it can now. So last season, Polaris Lance was super good because of some synergies that it had on the artifact. And basically it allowed every perfect fifth shot to cause an ignition, which is obviously very strong, especially for a primary with unlimited ammo, and you never really have to reload this thing if you're landing crits. So yeah, last season Polaris Lance was a star, and this season I think Collective Obligation is a star. So I'm just going to walk you through it a little bit and talk about what is synergizing to make this thing so strong. So first, we'll look at the intrinsic trait on Collective Obligation, which is Void Leech. This weapon leeches void debuffs when damaging targets that are suppressed, weakened, or volatile. Once charged, press to swap firing modes. In this mode, damage from this weapon applies the same void debuffs that were leeched. So basically, after you leech any void debuff, you can then spread it for 15 seconds. And then it also has this trait called Umbral Sustenance. This weapon's magazine is automatically reloaded when you gain Devour, avoid Overshield, or become invisible. So as we all know, Warlock is kind of the Devour subclass, Titan is the Void Overshield subclass, and Hunter is the Invisible subclass. Obviously you can get all those subclass verbs on every character, but that's kind of what each one is best at. And there is an artifact mod that really helps with this perk. So if we go to the artifact, we look at Void Hegemony. While you have a Void or Prismatic subclass equipped, defeating weakened targets provides a small Void Overshield. So if we think about Collective Obligation, it is always spreading Weaken, or at least if you're using it properly, it's spreading Weaken if you build into it. So then every time you're killing a weakened target, you're getting a small Void Overshield. And then, when you get that Overshield, that's going to proc Umbral Sustenance, and then you'll never have to reload this weapon as long as you're getting kills with it. And as you get weakened kills, it keeps giving you an Overshield, and that keeps proccing Umbral Sustenance, and you can just keep killing enemies forever and ever without having to reload, and you're dealing increased damage to them because you're weakening them. So Weaken is normally a 15% debuff, but now we have Expanding Abyss, where void sources deal increased damage to weakened targets. So this takes that 15% weaken and bumps it up to 25%. And if it was like a tractor cannon 30%, then that's going to go to 35%. But we'll just stick with the normal weaken, which is 15% to 25% with Expanding Abyss. So now, this primary exotic weapon is pretty much always dealing an extra 25% damage, which is obviously very strong. And then if you were unaware, Pulse Rifles got a massive buff in PvE when the final shape dropped. So it increased the base PvE damage versus all combatants by 20%, with the exception of Graviton Lance and Revision 0. So at a base, before any of these weakened things or how Collective Obligation works, since June, it's doing another 20% more damage, and then increase the damage versus miners, aka red bars. This stacks with the PvE damage increase, so another 15% buff. So if we look, Pulse Rifles will do 38% more damage to red bars. So yeah, this Collective Obligation just absolutely rolls through red bars, and then it's doing 25% more damage because of Expanding Abyss and the weaken that it's spreading. And I should mention also that exotics used to do 40% more damage to miners, and then that got decreased to 30% in final shape. But even still, you're looking at a 38% increase to red bars overall, and then an extra 25% damage increase because of Expanding Abyss every time you're spreading weaken. So obviously this is best on a void subclass, but Prismatic Titan can also take advantage of this because it's got suppressor grenades. But I will just mention a couple other really good things you can run is on Hunter, you can run Gerfalcon's Hauberk, and on Warlock, you could run Nezarec Sin. but you would probably want a void subclass on those ones so that you can use suppressor grenades, because suppression is an extremely strong verb. If we read it, it says the target is taken out of any active abilities and cannot activate any abilities or movement modes while suppression persists. Affected combatants cannot fire their weapons. When suppressed, overload champions are stunned. So this can stun overloads, and it can suppress enemies like wyverns in this week's Grandmaster, which is extremely strong because they basically just can't shoot back. And you can continue to leech those buffs that you spread with the weapon. So all you really have to do if you're playing with the weapon correctly is apply suppression, weaken, and volatile once, and then you're able to just keep spreading that those debuffs all the time. Because at 15 seconds, as long as you just apply it, so you have the buff for 15 seconds, then if you apply it with like 1 second left but don't kill the enemy, wait for your void leech to go away, and then you shoot that enemy again, and it's going to re-leech all those debuffs, and then you can hold reload and then just start spreading those debuffs again. And this can just flat out kill overload champions in like 2 to 3 stuns. With the build that I have, I'm running Second Chance, which gives me weakening shield throws. And then when I do that shield throw, I get an overshield, and we already talked about that with Void Hegemony. But also I proc Radiant, so that's a 25% damage boost. So Collective Obligation, like I said, it's dealing 25% more damage every time it's spreading Weaken, and then you can get 25% more damage with Radiant, and then if you wanted, you could build into Void Weapon Surges as well. So you can make it extremely strong. I didn't even do Void Weapon Surges, but I'm gonna show some footage of this on Carl with the base Collective Obligation versus the souped up Collective Obligation with Suppression, Weaken, and Volatile, and Expanding Abyss, and you can see just how much harder it's hitting. Plus you could see in the background gameplay like how good it is on the overload captains and stuff in the GM this week. And yeah, like I said, it's great for the wyverns. It's pretty much just great for everything if you're building into it. Obviously, if you're not using suppression grenades, then you're losing out on that. If you don't have a good way to get volatile or weaken, then it's not going to be as good. But if you build into it properly, this is one of the strongest primaries in the game, and I'm absolutely loving it. And yeah, I just wanted to make a video on that, talking about it, because it's very good. And I just wanted to talk about how the artifact is making it even better this season. And real quickly, before I wrap it up, I do want to point out the artifact perk Shield Crush. While you have Woven Mail, Frost Armor, or Void Overshield, your melee recharges faster and deals increased damage. And then while you're Amplified or Radiant, your grenade recharges faster and deals increased damage. So this is nice because, like I said, you have almost constant Void Overshields with Void Hegemony, thanks to the weaken that you're able to apply to everything with Collective Obligation. So you're getting more value there. And then there's also the Fragment Facet of Sacrifice. While you have an Arc Solar or Void buff, so your Void Overshield, ability Final Blows grant Darkness Transcendence energy. So you also get bonus Transcendence energy. So yeah, depending on the type of build you're running, this could be extremely strong, because take something like a Nezarec Sin Warlock, you could be getting a lot of ability Final Blows, and this would be really good if you paired it with Collective Obligation because of all the Void Overshields you can get. But mostly, I just wanted to talk about Collective Obligation and all the help that it's getting this season from our artifact and these different artifact mods. So yeah, if you found the video helpful and informative, then a like and subscription would be greatly appreciated. And if you're still watching to the end, then I appreciate you. So yeah, that's about it for the video. Take care.